What's going on, everybody? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 516. This is kind of strange. It's almost like we have a ton of shit to talk about and we don't have much to talk about all at the same time. It's a combination of a busy and a slow news week, but there was definitely enough for me to come up here and do a regular podcast episode, and we've got a lot of stuff to discuss. So in this episode, what you can hear from me is we're going to do something different and open up with some wrestling news. I'm going to talk about Rey Mysterio's new deal, some secret meeting that WWE had with Impact, which is crazy. And some thoughts on Kenny Omega topping this year's PWI 500. And then I'll briefly just touch on Raw and SmackDown, touch on the key points there, not the whole show. We all know that it's not worth reviewing these entire shows from top to bottom, so we'll talk about the main points. And then we will preview the 4 big shows that are coming up on the horizon. Super Showdown on October 6th, SmackDown 1000 on October 16th, Evolution on the 28th, and Crown Jewel on November 2nd. So we're going to preview all 4 of those shows and speculate and talk about everything going on, and that's pretty much it. So before we get started here, I do want to let you guys know that this coming Sunday on the YouTube channel, there will be a special episode being uploaded, a very big commentary on The Undertaker. It's one of those PayPal donation videos that came in, and I'm almost done with it, and I plan to release that on Sunday. Don't forget also to click that like button. I want to get the likes up. They seem to be down a little bit lately, and as we approach 25,000 subscribers here on the channel, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for at least 200 likes per video, so please help me out with that, and as always, subscribe. And lately, right now on YouTube, it's extremely important to click that notifications bell. That way you can be notified anytime I upload a video, so do those little chores for me, and I would very much appreciate it. And I won't waste any more of your time now. Let's jump right into things here, and like I said, I'm going to go in reverse here, and we're going to talk about some wrestling news first, because there's a few things going on that I found kind of interesting, and I wanted to comment on them. The first one is Rey Mysterio has reportedly officially signed with WWE. He has signed a 2-year deal. I read this story on PW Insider. What I gathered from them is that this was a 2-year deal, I guess with some sort of an opt-out after 18 months. I guess maybe he can give his notice at 18 months. But he is back now. He's signed a deal. He should be returning to TV at any time. WWE's probably just waiting for the right moment to bring him in. And let me think. What show was on the horizon that could be a really good place for Mysterio to make his return? SmackDown 1000. I think we can all call that. That's where they need to bring him back. The only thing that might change that is if he does make some sort of a special appearance at the Super Showdown first. But I kind of hope that they hold him off. Right now, we already have 10 matches announced for the Super Showdown, and I'm going to get into that card here in a minute. But I don't really think you even need Rey there. So I think it would be really cool for them just to hold him off and bring him back in as a surprise for SmackDown 1000. Apparently, that's going to be a pretty big show. And for those of you wondering, I do plan on taking that night off. I will probably be live streaming my reaction to SmackDown 1000 because I want to be home for that and I want to watch it and I want to do a video on it. So keep that in mind in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, welcome back Rey Mysterio. It's about time he showed back up. He's been in and out. I mean, he's done a couple of matches for WWE, right? Here and there. So now he's officially signed a deal. He's back. I mean, seemingly for his final run. How old is Rey now? It amazes me. He looks better now, I think, than he did in 2010 or 11. I mean, he just looks incredible. He's in great shape, and hopefully WWE can squeeze a couple more years out of Rey, and he can have one final run in the WWE, whether that's a world title run or whatever. I don't know. My instinct tells me no, but you never know. But just to see guys like Rey Mysterio back and the Hardy Boys back, kind of right at the tail end of their careers, is really nice to see, and I'm happy he's there. And another subject that I don't know a whole lot about, I just briefly kind of read this as well, and that is apparently WWE did hold some sort of a meeting with Impact Wrestling officials, or WWE officials met with probably everybody in charge of Impact Wrestling. What that's about, I don't know. To me, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, if this would have been 2011 or 2010, I would have been like shit in my pants. But really, we've already seen a working relationship, sort of, with Impact, right? They've showed Impact footage on the WWE Network, especially during the AJ Styles Something to Wrestle podcast when they talked about all his matches in TNA. And they've done some things with TNA and used some of their footage, and they're just kind of slowly incorporating them, and they might be working out some deals like individual one-time deals with the company here and there. So maybe WWE wants to make something a little bit more concrete that says, hey, anytime if we want to do a DVD on Samoa Joe or something like that, we can use this footage. We'll pay X amount of dollars, and you just give us access to everything. It could be a meeting about purchasing their video library. That would be be really cool if WWE said, look, Impact, you don't know what to do with this. Let us have it. We can showcase your company in an amazing way on the network, in a much better way than you can ever possibly do. For those of you who remember, a couple of weeks ago, I reviewed TNA Unbreakable from 2005, and I expressed my displeasure with the GWN network, with the Global Wrestling Network, or wherever it was that you can watch TNA shows and old pay-per-views on. It really didn't work well for me. So to put all this great TNA footage on the WWE network, I think that would be awesome. But that might have not even been what the meeting was about. Who knows? But considering where we are here in 2018 and the state of WWE and the state of Impact, I don't think that this meeting between the two companies was really that big a deal. Also, we have Kenny Omega topping this year's PWI 500 list. That's pretty cool. And I actually don't even think I've talked about this yet, despite the news being several weeks old. I know you guys have been tweeting about it at least since the beginning of the month. And it got me curious because I always see the news when the new PWI 500s come out. And back in the day, I used to collect all those magazines. I collected so many magazines. Some of you have seen pictures. I've posted them on Twitter and social media before. I just have piles and piles and piles of old magazines, especially from the 90s. And I have so many of these old PWI issues, and I love going back through and looking at them. But it got me curious because, of course, I don't really remember who wins number one or who gets the number one spot year after year. So I went and looked it up. And I was surprised to see that Kenny Omega is only the third time on this list that a non-WWE guy was number one. That's really cool. I saw AJ Styles did it back in 2010. He wasn't with WWE yet. And Kazuchika Okada got it last year, and Kenny Omega got it this year. So unless I'm missing one, that's it. Every other year, WWE guys have been on top. So that's awesome for Kenny Omega, and that's awesome for professional wrestling. Which brings me to our friend Ryback. I kind of stumbled across a story yesterday on Twitter that Ryback was on his podcast kind of giving his 2 cents on this PWI 500. That's right. If there's one guy in the wrestling business whose opinion we need on the greatest wrestler in the world, it's fucking Ryback. And he basically just kind of shit on it, was very condescending towards the list, and he believes that a WWE guy should always be number one on the list no matter what. That's what he feels. He feels the list is kind of a joke because it's just their list. It's a random bunch of people voting who number one is going to be. And he thinks it's stupid if somebody who doesn't represent the best wrestling company in the world is number one. That's what you think, Ryback? Well, I'm going to school you, boy. Did it ever occur to you for 1 second that maybe all of these wrestlers wrestling everywhere else around the world on the independents and internationally have something to work towards? Going out there and displaying their talents and displaying their skills in front of everybody, in front of audiences all over the world, trying to get noticed? The PWI 500 is ranking like the best wrestler of that year. Wrestling encompasses everything, not just the WWE. And for you to make that statement now of all times, here in 2018, when independent wrestling is about as strong as it has ever been, I'm not sure if you heard about that little show in Chicago called All In, kind of successful. You weren't invited. So I just don't understand why he would even open up his mouth here. And I guess the main reason for this opinion of Ryback's that a WWE guy should automatically be number one on the PWI 500 every year is mainly due to WWE's schedule. He says because of the grueling schedule that the WWE has, and guys like AJ Styles are out there wrestling 4 or 5 nights a week while traveling all over the world, should automatically qualify them to number one. Which I pretty much completely disagree with. I mean, I kind of understand what he's trying to say here, but that should not automatically make you number one. The accolade of best wrestler in the world should go to the best wrestler in the world. It has nothing to fucking do with how much you're traveling, at least in my opinion. And I can kind of poke holes in that too, because it's not like Kenny Omega doesn't travel at all. I mean, come on, he's all over the world. He's logging a lot of miles himself. He has a very busy and very hectic schedule because the more you work, the more you get paid when you're on that level. So in WWE, you can even cancel out the long, grueling schedule with how well they are treated. WWE, when the wrestlers get to the building, they are treated with the most lavish catering. Every day WWE provides the most comfortable environment possible for these guys because they are on the road so much. And it used to not be like that back in the day. Now WWE practically tickles the wrestlers' balls when they walk into the arena. They're well fed. They have round-the-clock care from doctors and therapists and everything else they need. Everything is provided for them. And on the independent level, it's really not like that. There's probably a lot more cramming guys in cars, cramming guys in hotel rooms, eating Taco Bell at 2 o'clock in the morning, a lot of that shit going on, where in WWE, it's not is bad. So yes, WWE travels a lot. They're all over the place. But at the same time, I think the company tries to make it as bearable as possible. So I don't really believe in that theory of Ryback's that just because you have a grueling schedule should give you the number one spot. I think you should be judged for what you can do inside the ring. And this year, Kenny Omega has been entertaining as hell, and he has had some super high-profile matches. I think it's a nice little trend. I mean, hell, they've been doing this since 1991, Ryback. So what's the difference if 3 times a non-WWE guy is number one on the list? I think you need to relax. And to be fair, it's not like he was completely shitting on Kenny Omega's face or anything like that. He did congratulate him. It's just, all of his comments about, putting his 2 cents in on this, I just didn't understand why he needed to say anything at all. And I have nothing against Ryback. He was never really my favorite wrestler or anything like that, and I've heard him say some kind of strange things in his podcast before, but he's never really done or said anything that's bothered me in any way. And in a lot of ways, this doesn't bother me either. He should have said, man, props to this kid for going out there and getting noticed to such a level that for only the 3rd time in this list history, there was a non-WWE guy topping it, and he is one of those people. Don't you think that's a nice personal accomplishment for Kenny Omega to have? It's not like Ryback is really 1,000,000% wrong. It's just, why even say that shit? You know what I mean? So anyway, I will congratulate Kenny Omega. I think it's awesome. And topping that list, it's not like it's a complete joke. Have any of us seen some of the WWE's lists lately on social media? The Undertaker's top 5 rivals, top 10 greatest factions of all time. So I think the PWI 500 is every single bit as credible as any list or ranking WWE has ever put out. And speaking of WWE and things being credible, you want to know what's not credible? How about this "We Want Talent" hashtag? Are you fucking kidding me? I wasn't even aware of this until earlier on in the day. A lot of you were tweeting me to take a look at it. And oh my God, is this stupid. From what I can gather, this is basically a hashtag, this rising up of these angry fans. Oh my God, the fans are angry again. Who go fucking figure. And this time they're mad that not the right women are being given opportunities in the WWE. So they're already over the fact that women's wrestling is about as good as it's ever been in the fucking history of the universe right now. They're already over that. They forget that 10 years ago, we had just a bunch of models and divas and women who couldn't work and couldn't wrestle and had no desire and just nothing. I mean, the women's division offered nothing to the show a very short time ago. So yes, we still have those type of diva type wrestlers out there, but we also have a lot of awesome female workers out there that are getting opportunities somewhere. WWE's got women all over the place. They got Raw, they got SmackDown, they have NXT, they got the Mae Young Classic once a year. They got all sorts of shit going on. So now it looks like this "We Want Talent" hashtag is designed to, I guess, shame out some of the females in WWE. I mean, they're trying to make it good-natured. They think they have good intentions, but they come off horrible here, and the delivery is just fucking awkward and terrible and gross. A lot of people are listing the women that should be out of WWE, women who are stealing the spotlight from other women who are working hard. Jesus. I've never once in my life seen a single minute of Total Divas. I won't watch that shit. I have no interest in it whatsoever. But I'm also very happy to see what we see in the women's division. And I cannot believe that in the short amount of time of 3 or 4 years since women's wrestling started getting good, the fans are already sour on it. Now things aren't good enough. I just cannot believe that fans would even have the nerve to complain about women's wrestling. I know that it's not perfect. I know there's plenty of things to complain about just in the day-to-day booking and how women are handled in WWE. Hell, we've been bitching about Charlotte and Becky ever since SummerSlam. So I'm not saying there's nothing to complain about, but the quality of the female talent that we have now is as good as it has ever been, even with the Bellas, even with Maurice and people like that. So it's not like they're taking over. The fans are just always looking for a fight. They just can never be happy, So now they think whenever the Bellas are on TV and Brie Bella is falling on her ass, botching moves, and Nikki Bella is out there shaking her ass, and she has a rumored match with Ronda Rousey at Evolution, which has got everybody's panties in a bunch. They're going to start hashtags now that completely goes against what their intention is. And their intention is to show respect to certain women while taking a shit on the ones they don't like, that they find personally unacceptable, not worthy of being in a WWE ring, like they fucking know. You ever been in a ring, motherfucker? Ever been to the gym? I doubt it. So don't judge these women. Okay? We all know that some of them are better than others. Yes, we know that. But Total Divas would not be on the air if it wasn't getting ratings. To act like women's wrestling is being ruined and is going down the shitter, it's still on the fucking rise. It's not time to go down the shitter yet. People do want to see the Bellas and those type of females in WWE. I don't know why. They just do. You know, that show wouldn't be renewed season after season if people weren't watching it. Okay, so they have something to offer. They're not Kurt Angle in the ring, but they still have something to offer to the show because the fans know who they are. And I have friends, people that don't know anything about wrestling at all. Some of them watch this shit. Some of them watch Total Divas. They actually do. I've heard a couple of girls at work talk about it, and I just kind of internally laugh. And I'm like, oh my God, if you guys only knew. So it's not a battle the fans, I think, need to be fighting. Basically what it boils down to, I think, with anybody, whether it be the men's roster or the women's roster or whatever the fans are pissed off about that week, at the end of the day, it's all about who they like and who they dislike. They try to pretend that they're an unbiased observer. Horse shit. No, you're not. Because if you were, you wouldn't say things like WWE should fire Roman Reigns and he's the worst wrestler that ever lived and the Bellas should just go away and die. Unbiased observers don't speak that way. And so this is something that I just found extremely annoying and extremely hypocritical, and it's self-contradicting. The whole "we want talent" hashtag is fucking stupid. Moving on now into Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live for this week. These are the post Hell in the Cell shows. By the way, speaking of Hell in the Cell, if you would like to hear my thoughts on Hell in the Cell, I did do a short podcast style review on Sunday night, late Sunday night after my live stream, because I was up here live reacting to the show. So that link is up in the top right hand corner of the screen there if you want to give that a look after this episode. And I did not think that both shows were horrible this week. Raw definitely had its problems. There was a lot of people that were very bored with Raw because I was up here live streaming my reaction to Raw too. And there was a lot of boring aspects of it. But really, when you look at the show as a whole, we had the Universal title defended in the main event. We also had an Intercontinental title match on that show. So we had two big title matches the night after a pay-per-view. And then we also got The Undertaker coming back, and we had a couple of surprises. We had a return. We had a debut. So when you look at all that as a whole, it was a pretty decent show, not a terrible one, but the way WWE just stitches everything together in this, formulaic rinse and repeat type of booking that we see literally every single week on Monday Night Raw to a nauseating level, which is why I come up here and do live streams every week, because I can't fucking take it. I can't watch this shit and listen to Michael Cole for 3 hours without 300 of you hanging out with me. So Renee Young's making it better and she's making it easier, but still, Raw is Raw. You know what I mean? So as far as the big news that took place on Raw, we'll start at the top. The big main event at Hell in the Cell, of course, ended in a non-finish with Brock Lesnar kicking down the door. And we were all wondering, well, shit, did Brock Lesnar return or did he never really leave to begin with? And now it's becoming apparent that he's going to be making that trip to Saudi Arabia, and that's kind of why they brought him back at Hell in the Cell, one would assume. He came in there, kicked the door down, made the match a non-finish between Roman and Strowman in order to set up a triple threat, which is what we all had speculated that's going to lead to at some point. A triple threat in Saudi Arabia for the Universal title, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman. So that's going to be your big match, and it's probably, if I had to guess, with Brock obviously going back to the UFC, to have this UFC title fight. We know he's not going to be back in WWE full time. We know he's not going to be having another title run between now and WrestleMania. That just wouldn't make any sense. If he was going to come back and win the title, he wouldn't have lost it to begin with. You know what I mean? So Brock's not going to be winning in Saudi Arabia. I think Roman's going to retain just like Brock retained back at the Greatest Royal Rumble. So I think that this is a huge payday. We all know, we've all heard the dollar amounts and the dollar figures that Saudi Arabia is tossing at WWE for them to come and do 2 shows a year there. So it kind of kills a couple of birds with one stone. You get Brock Lesnar on that show. He gets a huge payday for this. And it also gets his rematch out of the way because Brock is owed a rematch. All former champions are deserved a rematch unless, of course, you're holding the belt hostage at home and the former champions can't get their rematches, but Brock is entitled to one as much as anybody else, so this gets that out of the way. Roman Reigns, I would guess, is probably going to walk out of Saudi Arabia with the title, much like the Greatest Royal Rumble. I didn't really predict any title changes on that show, I don't think. I might have predicted Nakamura. I can't remember, but I don't really think this show is going to be any different. I don't think we're going to see anything major happen. I think it's just going to be a big show, and I don't anticipate, at least right now, 8 weeks away or whatever we are, 6 weeks away, I don't see a title change taking place. But you never know. I could be wrong, but that is the big match. That all took place during the opening promo. Paul Heyman came out there and everybody's talking Roman, Strowman, and that's when all the shit starts to get hammered out. And it winds up leading to Baron Corbin being out there and booking himself in a title match against Roman Reigns in the main event. So Baron Corbin was going to get a title shot. The GM is going to give himself a title match. So that's perfect. I thought it was kind of silly considering that you're already advertising Roman as the champion on November 2nd and you're having a title match on Raw. Who in the world sitting at home or in that crowd that night thought that Baron Corbin was going to win the Universal title, even with him being the GM and being able to make up the rules as he goes along and change finishes and say, oh, we're going to make it a no disqualification now. Even with all of that advantage, there was still no way he was going to beat Roman Reigns. And everybody came out there. The Shield ran out there. We had Strowman, we had Ziggler, we had McIntyre. It was a big brawl on the outside of the ring. Lots going on everywhere. And when all the dust settled and, you got Roman and Corbin back in the ring, Roman, of course, nailed him with the spear and pinned him and retained the title. Seth Rollins, of course, like I mentioned earlier, did defend the Intercontinental title against Dolph Ziggler. Him and Dolph, I should say, took that ridiculously stupid bump at Hell in the Cell that I didn't like at all. And Ziggler is talking with Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin says he's going to make an Intercontinental title match for Raw. Ziggler's going to invoke his rematch clause for Raw because he's thinking Seth is not in the building. So Corbin's like, when Seth doesn't show up, I'll have no choice as the GM but to award you the Intercontinental title by forfeit. So that was their big plan. Seth winds up showing up anyway, and the two of them have to go out there and wrestle in an Intercontinental title match a night after falling off the damn cage through a couple of tables. Luckily, this was not a 30-minute marathon match with 4 commercial breaks or anything like that. They kept it relatively short, and Seth wound up winning clean with the curb stomp, and he is moving on now to another challenger. It looks like his issue with Dolph Ziggler is over, and I'm happy with that. They had a pretty good run. And I think Seth Rollins' next challenger could possibly be Drew McIntyre. I actually think they might go in that direction. Drew McIntyre had a pretty damn good match himself on Monday Night Raw with Dean Ambrose and beat him clean with the Claymore, I believe. It was a great little match. I enjoyed it. So Raw had its moments. It wasn't all shit. Some of these matches were pretty good and relatively exciting. We had some surprises on Monday Night Raw too. How about Lio Rush randomly showing up and interrupting Elias? They've been teasing a little bit of an alliance here with Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley. So Elias is in the ring, he's singing a song, and he's interrupted by Lio Rush, who's out there. This guy is so little. He was cracking me up on the stream. I think we were calling him Webster. But he's pretty entertaining, and he's good on the mic, and he's got this funny little character, and he winds up talking some shit to Elias. Lashley then comes out. I think him and Elias had the match is what it was. It was Lashley versus Elias, and Lio Rush sticks around to do commentary. And during the Lashley-Elias match, Kevin Owens comes out, and he starts chasing Lio Rush around, and Lio is so quick. He's just running around the ring. He's doing backflips off the ring apron, avoiding Kevin Owens. Eventually, when Lashley gets rid of both guys, they wind up in the ring together. Lio Rush is on the shoulders of Bobby Lashley, and I could not be happier. I've been saying this right from the start with Bobby Lashley that he needs something. Now, granted, this is random as fuck. Okay, Lio Rush out of nowhere. What the hell's that about? I was getting a lot of tweets too on Monday that was really annoying of people like being mad about this. Oh man, this is bullshit. Lio Rush is being called up before so-and-so or before this guy or before that guy. Like, oh my God. It doesn't matter. It's the fucking WWE. They have an idea in mind where they want to go creatively with Lashley. They see something in him. He's good on the mic. He would make a good personality on Raw. Lashley needs a guy. So they kind of brainstorm the idea to put them together. What are they going to say? Oh, no, let's not do that because Lio Rush is jumping in front of the line and there should be other guys going up instead of him. No, it doesn't work that way. If you see something creatively that you might work, you fucking do it. It doesn't matter whose turn it is. That's stupid. And plus, Lio Rush, this little alliance, I'm not completely hating it. I know we're only 1 week in, but considering what Lio Rush did on Monday Night Raw, running around and avoiding Kevin Owens, it's going to be really fun when Owens finally gets his hands on him. Imagine what he's going to do to poor little Rush. But just seeing him run around there and hanging out with Lashley, I just think anything different than what Lashley is doing is better for him. And if they're putting a mouthpiece with him, I got no problem with that. I kind of had a different direction in my head. I think we all did. I think a lot of us thought that Lashley should align himself with Paul Heyman. But instead we get Lio Rush, which is kind of funny. But I'm willing to give it a shot. And I certainly don't care at all for one single millisecond that Lio Rush got called up to the roster before somebody else on NXT. I'm also liking the very random pairing with Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. I don't know if this is going to lead just to Bobby Roode getting annoyed with Gable because he's so over the top with his desire to be glorious. Eventually, Bobby Roode's not going to be able to take it anymore, and he's going to beat the piss out of Chad Gable. But right now, I think it's pretty funny the way Gable's running around there, kind of like Lio Rush, just very excited, and I don't even know how to describe his obsession and infatuation with Bobby Roode and the glorious song. He just wants to be out there and be glorious. It's only a matter of time before Gable comes out there with a ring robe, and I hope he gets one. But he had a one-on-one match with Victor, which of course he did win, and Bobby Roode was out there celebrating with him, and so far I kind of like it. Again, it's random. It's two guys that are doing nothing, that are being slapped together, and sometimes some of the greatest acts and alliances and tag teams in WWE history were born in that same way. So I'm wishing the best and wishing luck to Chad Gable and Bobby Roode. We had Ronda Rousey issuing an open challenge, and this was kind of dumb. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I was laughing my ass off when Rousey backstage approached the Bellas and asked them, get this, how an open challenge works. Has she not watched Raw? So she's like, I don't understand, guys. Like, what do I do? Like, do I go out there and just challenge somebody? Or, just the conversation was cracking me up. I'm like, Rousey, why are you asking the Bellas how to do an open challenge? All you have to do is watch TV. If you want to challenge somebody, you go out to the ring, you grab the mic, and you say, who wants to fight me? It's not, what do you think you have to do? File paperwork? The fact that she was even asking that was so stupid. And you would think that the writers that are handling dialogue for somebody that makes millions of dollars, that probably understands how things work, in a general sense, she can probably wipe her own ass and change a light bulb, and they're going to write in that she needs to ask advice on how to go about issuing an open challenge. And open challenges have happened on the same show that she's been on. So how does she not fucking know this? Anyway, I just thought that was really stupid. But they did the teasing because Natalya was there too. She said, she made some comment about, yeah, you never know with an open challenge who's going to accept. And that kind of made you wonder that it was going to be Natalya. So then later on, Rousey is out there issuing her open challenge, and it does turn out to be Natalya. Her music plays, but instead of Natalya, we get the Riot Squad, who apparently has attacked Natalya behind the scenes or backstage before she was able to come out to the ring, and they drag her lifeless body out there. Turns into a big brawl with the Riot Squad and Ronda Rousey until the Bellas hit the ring to make the save, and that is your big match for Super Showdown, the 6-woman tag with Rousey and the Bellas taking on the Riot Squad. And we've heard about the rumors of Nikki Bella and Ronda Rousey at Evolution. If that match is going to happen, you might have to do the heel turn here in Australia. We'll have to wait and see. And speaking of the women's division, we did have the return of Nia Jax as well. She returned to team with Ember Moon and beat Mickie James and Alicia Fox in a tag match. So Nia Jax is finally back, and I guess now she'll be worked back in and factored back into the storylines going forward. And the final thing I'll mention on Monday Night Raw is the Undertaker promo. He came out to discuss his match with Triple H. And it's always great to see The Undertaker, but I wasn't really expecting him to say anything too crazy in his promo. Although every time The Undertaker is in the ring, even though I have my issues with him continuing to wrestle, and I would be fine if he would just retire already, it's just the presence that he has and the attention that he commands is pretty awe-inspiring when you watch it. It's just amazing. When The Undertaker talks, people fucking listen. And I listened, and he had some interesting news for the match at Super Showdown against Triple H. Shawn Michaels, as we pretty much figured, is going to be in the corner of Triple H. So The Undertaker is going to bring somebody in his corner as well. And that's none other than his brother Kane. So we've got the Brothers of Destruction and DX on opposite sides of the ring here. That's kind of cool. It's 2018. I mean, all four of these guys were in the WWE in 1995. Some of them longer than that. It's just the fact that we're seeing this in 2018 is pretty nuts. And when you also think about the rumors of Shawn Michaels getting back in the ring, and we heard that he was going to be coming back for the Saudi Arabia show, and it was potentially going to be a tag team match, there you go. I think that might be your tag team match. I don't know what Kane's deal is. I have not read up on this appearance at Super Showdown or what they're trying to do for Kane. Now that he's mayor, he might need to officially retire. So maybe they're setting all that up. I don't know. But right now it seems likely that if Shawn is going to come back to the ring and that tag team match rumor is confirmed, it's going to be Triple H and Shawn versus Taker and Kane in Saudi Arabia. That's just my guess. If you guys have heard different or heard any other news, please let me know. But that seems like the direction they're going in. And with Shawn Michaels coming back, hey, I understand this is going to be a big payday, and he's coming back to wrestle The Undertaker. I just really hope that if he wrestles in Saudi Arabia, it's not his only match back. If he's back, he might as well come back. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to come back full time and wrestle at every pay-per-view or anything like that. But if he's going to come back into the ring and wrestle in November, why not wrestle in 2019? Why not make an appearance in the Royal Rumble, or better yet, have a match at WrestleMania, potentially even a retirement match against The Undertaker? I would actually be all for that. I've mentioned that scenario a couple of times. I've even mentioned the retirement match taking place at Survivor Series, since that's where The Undertaker made his debut. But if they hold it off until WrestleMania and Shawn Michaels puts The Undertaker down and they turn out to be the only two guys in history to retire each other, I think that would be kind of cool. So I'm kind of hoping they go in that direction. And if Shawn does indeed come back in the ring, I really don't want to see him come back for one match at 4 o'clock in the morning at Saudi Arabia. I just don't want to see that alone. I want to see him come back for more. So that's my hope there. We'll move on now to SmackDown Live. We have a few things to talk about on SmackDown because there were some future matches announced during this show as well. Now, the show opened up with a Miz TV segment where his guest was his own wife, Maurice, and Daniel Bryan wound up coming out and trying to attack The Miz. And he kicked The Miz, who then landed into Maurice, and she fell down, and she's injured, and Daniel Bryan is freaking out, and he feels bad that he caused this. And the whole thing turned out to be a ruse, which was pretty good. And Miz and Maurice suckered in Daniel Bryan again and began to kick his ass, and then Daniel Bryan fought back again, and Maurice got knocked down again. But this time she fucking deserved it. And they announced during this entire segment, which I thought was pretty enjoyable, that at the Super Showdown, Daniel Bryan would be facing The Miz one-on-one, and the winner gets a title shot against the WWE champion, I believe at SmackDown 1000. And I'm wondering, I mentioned in my last couple of episodes, if you're booking long-term with Daniel Bryan and The Miz, I thought it would be cool to find some way for The Miz to wind up winning the WWE title somehow from AJ Styles, and then have Daniel Bryan win the Royal Rumble, and the two of them can clash for the title. But if you're having the title match already, I don't know. I don't know if we see a title change or not. I think Daniel Bryan might get a title shot. I think maybe he beats The Miz at Super Showdown. This is, if I had to guess, this is what they'll do. I think Daniel Bryan wins, because if he doesn't, that means he's 0-3. He lost at SummerSlam, lost at Hell in the Cell. Now he's going to lose again, and there's a title shot on the line. You know, I mean, when is the word buried going to start being used? You know what I mean? That's what the fans would say, right? If the Miz was Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan would definitely be buried by now. I think we can all agree on that. So I think Daniel Bryan would win here and then go on to face maybe AJ Styles in a really great barn burner of a babyface title match. Think about how great that would be. And then you have the Miz like interrupt and cost Bryan the match or some shit like that to continue the feud even further. Or if AJ winds up dropping the belt to Samoa Joe at the Super Showdown, then Daniel Bryan's got to face Samoa Joe and could just straight up lose, or again, we could have interference from The Miz costing him the match or whatever. So right now, I'm almost thinking, even though I think it would be cool for The Miz to win the WWE title, I think maybe Daniel Bryan wins the match and wins the title shot. But I'm not convinced Daniel Bryan's winning the title. I just think he's going to get the title shot. That's all. And speaking of AJ Styles, he had a great match on SmackDown with Cien Almas. Now, they had wrestled a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown, and that was pretty good. So we get the rematch here tonight, and this time we got a finish. I don't believe we got a finish in the first match. Am I right? But AJ, just an amazing sequence at the end into the Styles Clash. I'm not even a big fan of the Styles Clash move. I just don't think it looks very good. But the way AJ kind of did that reversal and rolled and kind of flipped himself backwards right into Clash position and bam, nailed Almas with it out of nowhere. I thought that was great, and it was a great finish to the match. And AJ won a hard-fought battle a couple of nights after he defended the title in a grueling match with Samoa Joe. And he is now set to face Samoa Joe at the Super Showdown. As of right now, from what I have seen on WWE.com, I don't see any stipulation for this. I don't know if they're going to add one later. Samoa Joe, it sounded like after Hell in the Cell, he wanted some sort of a stipulation for this match so he wouldn't get screwed again. So that might be added later, or if it has been added, I just didn't see it. We also have the demise of Rusev Day. Rusev Day finally imploded this week on SmackDown. There was a U.S. title match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. There was a lot of backstage stuff going on before this match. Aiden English was overheard saying some shit about Lana, and she was pissed and was going to tell Rusev, and then she never got a chance to tell Rusev, and Rusev wanted English out there in his corner, but then English made a miscue and cost Rusev the match, and then after the match, English was the one to beat up Rusev. I always thought that Rusev was going to get so fed up with this guy, he was just going to kick his ass ass. But English essentially did the turn here, beat up Rusev, and now English is going to, I guess, be the heel in this, and Rusev will be the babyface, which is probably for the best. But I don't know. I would have been okay with the act continuing for a little while longer. I thought it was the best thing English has done since he's been with the company so far. It's been fun for him. He's good in that role. The two of them are pretty entertaining together, and I don't think it could have lasted forever, another year or anything like that, but I definitely think they could have rolled a couple more months with it. But they decided to break them up here, and that is what it is, and I'm sure the two of them will be headlining kickoff shows around the world. We briefly saw Randy Orton on SmackDown too. I guess he's on the hunt for his next feud. I think he's kind of done with Jeff Hardy. He did show up in the production truck, and he threatened the production guy to put up the footage of him digging the screwdriver in Jeff Hardy's earlobe, but I still think that issue between the two of them is probably squashed, and hopefully Randy Orton will go on to have a different opponent now. And aside from that, we just had the main event. That's really the only other thing worth talking about here. Becky Lynch had her championship coronation ceremony. They had the belt out there. They had Paige out there. She introduced Becky Lynch. She comes out and cuts kind of a heel promo, just as usual, same stuff we've seen from her. And then she winds up calling out Charlotte. She wants Charlotte to come out to the ring. She's been complaining about her stealing her spotlight, and she always wants the spotlight. So Charlotte winds up coming out, and the promo isn't bad. Some of the stuff can be really cringy, but this wasn't horrible. I think Becky Lynch is doing a pretty good job in this heel role. And the brawl was great because the ladies were in their street clothes, so it just looked a little bit more violent. Charlotte is literally coming out of her top. She had to be really careful there not to have any sort of major wardrobe malfunction, but she was getting her ass kicked by Becky, on the outside of the ring. She was throwing her over the announce table and just kicking her ass, and wound up putting her in the arm bar in the middle of the ring and nearly snapping Charlotte's arm. So it was a great kind of dirty brawl between the women. I liked it. The issue is not over, and they're going to wrestle a couple of more times, and one of those times is coming up in just a couple of weeks. So this issue isn't over, and even though the booking has been weird with these two, I haven't completely hated it. The fans are still on Becky's side. She's a heel, but they're chanting, "You deserve it," and shit. And WWE kind of wants you to choose which woman you like better, but Becky is clearly, at least an attitude here, acting like the heel. But she's still very much beloved, so even though the ass-backwards booking is a big factor here with WWE, it's still pretty good. Becky and Charlotte, I think, are doing just fine, and I have really not too many issues with this feud. Of course, if Charlotte wins the belt back, then we're going to have to listen to Becky being buried comments and all that shit, but we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. Now, before I start running through the Super Showdown card, I do also want to mention that I saw NXT this week on Wednesday night, and I watched the Ricochet versus Pete Dunne champion versus champion match. That shit was great. I don't even care that it ended in a no contest because it was a fucking awesome match. And it went, I would say maybe 25 minutes, 23 minutes, something like that. It was entertaining as hell. And I loved the finishing sequence too, where Ricochet pretty much just deadlifted Pete Dunne right into a brainbuster. Awesome stuff. And that's when Undisputed hit the ring to spoil the entire match. But it was damn good. I mean, that just when I see NXT, I'm just so happy that that's there. When the fans get all uppity about, oh, it's a travesty that so-and-so hasn't been called up yet, just fucking keep your pants on. It's better. I'd much rather watch Ricochet versus Pete Dunne in NXT than Ricochet versus Pete Dunne on 205 Live or on SmackDown or with full of commercials and Golden Corral promos and Michael Cole and Corey Graves talking about nothing. I would rather just watch these two guys wrestle with Mauro Ranallo going ape shit in the background. That's what I would prefer. So, it's all under the WWE umbrella. To me, I want to see good wrestling, and when I see two guys like this tearing the house down, it's just, if you put those same two guys in a SmackDown or Raw environment or a kickoff show on a pay-per-view, it just wouldn't feel the same. So we'll move on now to the Super Showdown. Coming up on October 6th from Melbourne, Australia, we have got a shit ton of matches announced for this thing. We, of course, in what seems to be the main event, we've got Triple H versus The Undertaker. We've got The Shield taking on Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre. We've got AJ Styles defending the WWE title against Samoa Joe. We've got Ronda Rousey and the Bellas taking on the Riot Squad. We've got Becky versus Charlotte for the SmackDown Ladies title. John Cena makes his return to team with Bobby Lashley. Interesting team there. Those two guys had a match back in 2007 right after Benoit died at a pay-per-view for the title, and Cena won that. I don't know if they've even seen each other since. But Cena and Lashley are making a pretty superhuman team there, and they're going to be taking on the team of Kevin Owens and Elias. And I'm sure Lio Rush is going to be out there as well. And you put Lio Rush and Cena together, oh, that's going to be fun. We've got Daniel Bryan taking on The Miz. The winner gets a title shot. We've got the New Day taking on The Bar for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Asuka actually had a match on SmackDown. She beat Billie Kay, I believe. She'll be teaming up with Naomi to take on the Iconics. Kind of sad to see what's happening to Asuka there, but whatevs. And for the Cruiserweight title, we've got Cedric Alexander defending against Buddy Murphy. So I believe that is 10 matches announced, and we might even get one more. That's a pretty big show. According to what I've looked up, and I could be wrong on this, the Super Showdown, I believe for me in California, is going to air at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when it starts, which really is not that bad because I normally stay up super late anyway. I usually stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'm up till 4:35. So what's the difference if I stay up till 6? So I very well might stay up all night and live stream my reaction to that. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'm leaning towards doing that. If nothing else, I'll be watching and live tweeting, but I'll see how I feel. It'll be weird to begin a stream at 2 o'clock in the morning, but hell, it might be fun too. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel and make sure you give me a follow over on Twitter for the latest on that. And when I look at that card, you know, I keep comparing this show to the Greatest Royal Rumble. I think WWE is going to give the Australian crowd a great show, but I'm not sure if we're necessarily going to see a ton of title changes. We didn't see any at Greatest Royal Rumble, correct? But I'm going to release a predictions video on the show a couple of weeks from now, right before the show. So I need to start thinking about what I'm going to predict for this show. As far as all of the other shows on the horizon, there's a ton of them. We got so much shit going on between October and November. We got the Super Showdown on October 6th, and then on the 16th, we've got SmackDown 1000, and then coming up on the 28th, we've got Evolution. Now, right now for Evolution, there's only 2, I believe, confirmed matches, and that's Alexa Bliss versus Trish and Lita versus Mickie James. We're assuming they're going to add a Charlotte and Becky match. We're going to get a Ronda Rousey match as well, most likely against Nikki Bella. But maybe Natalya. Maybe WWE double swerves us here. We're all thinking Nikki's going to turn heel. Maybe Natalya's going to turn heel. I've been calling that since the minute she showed up on WWE TV, or I'm sorry, on Raw, after WrestleMania, that she was going to turn heel because she's so lovey-dovey and huggy-kissy with Ronda Rousey. I'm like, well, there you go. They're going to be feuding. So maybe Jim Neidhart's death postponed those plans a little bit, and now they're ready to do it later on in the year. I don't know. But Rousey's going to be working with somebody at Evolution as well. And I'm sure they're going to wind up involving every woman on the roster. We're going to get an NXT women's title match as well. We know that. So there's going to be a lot going on. And I think it's cool that WWE is putting on that big all-female pay-per-view just 3 or 4 days ahead of Crown Jewel in Saudi Arabia, where women are not allowed to compete. So it's WWE's way of balancing that out. I mean, what better way to do it than to say, okay, fine, Saudi Arabia, we can't bring our women with us. We're going to give them their own fucking pay-per-view here in the States that might even be better what we're going to give you in Saudi Arabia. So at least WWE is giving their best attempt to, yes, take the money from Saudi Arabia, but still try their best to make it right with the women. I really don't know what to make of it there, but I'm still excited for Evolution. I think it's going to be a good show. A lot of people are really upset about it. They already think it's going to suck. Apparently there was some leaked Evolution card and everybody was mad about it or whatever, but damn, can we wait till the show gets here before we start saying it sucks? Like, fuck me. So hopefully people will try their best not to fly off the rails quite yet, and let's just wait and see what WWE has in store for Evolution. And then after that, a couple of days later, the men are off to Saudi Arabia on November 2nd for the big show there. And right now we only have the Universal title announced, big triple threat match, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman. And, my 6th week early prediction, like I mentioned earlier on, I would expect Roman Reigns to retain here, but who knows? That could change. And as if that weren't enough, right after we get through those 4 shows, coming up in the next few weeks, then it's Survivor Series time coming up on November 18th. I'm going to be at Survivor Series this year in LA. So for those of you that are in the area, please stop by. The plan right now is to find a bar or a place to watch NXT TakeOver on Saturday night. I will not be attending the NXT TakeOver show because I'm going to be at the Something to Wrestle With Live podcast earlier on in the day. So the plan is to find a little bar, something to hang out, watch NXT NXT. And if any of you want to come by and stop by and say hello, that would be great. Maybe we can organize some sort of a little meet and greet or a hangout or something like that for those of you in the LA area and that are interested. So drop me a line. My DMs are open on Twitter if that's something that you think you can make, and we'll set something up. And then if you think we're done, we're not, because 6 days after the Survivor Series, we have fucking Starrcade coming up. Now, Starrcade, I believe, is going to be just like last year. It's not going to be televised, or it's not going to be on the WWE Network. I believe this is just a house show, although that could change. I'm really surprised they didn't air Starrcade on the WWE Network last year. Like, why not? It's your network. You know, what's stopping you? So why they didn't do that, I have no idea. So they might be changing their mind, and they might actually air like a glorified house show from, I believe, Cincinnati is where the Starrcade show is taking place this year, and that falls on November 24th. So just less than a week after Survivor Series, they got to jump into that. So that's a lot of wrestling, guys. That's a lot of fucking wrestling. Then when you tie in NXT, and you got a TakeOver coming up, you got 205 Live, you got a Mixed Match Challenge, you have the Mae Young Classic. Man, it's wrestling all over the place, y'all. It's just all over the place. So anyway, I'm out of breath. That is it for me this week. I don't really have that much else to talk about. Like I said, keep an eye on the channel this coming Sunday. I've got a big video coming up on The Undertaker, and then I got another big PayPal donation video coming up on October 3rd. And when we get into Survivor Series time, I already have 2 Survivor Series reviews, 2 of my favorite Survivor Series shows ever. And if there's time, I want to add a 3rd Survivor Series review between now and this year's Survivor Series. So there's going to be a lot of videos coming to the channel, so it's never been more important to subscribe. I will talk to you guys in just a couple of days. Actually, I will talk to you this Sunday for my Undertaker video, and then, of course, this coming Monday, I will be live on YouTube reacting to Raw and hanging out with all of you as usual. So I will catch you then. Take care of yourselves and have a great weekend. Peace.